What's up, everybody? Welcome into this Week 4 preview edition of Pushing the Pile. This show is brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook. Make every moment more. We got to start with our locks, JP, even though we don't really want to. We got to take our medicine here. All season long, up to the playoffs, Cash App is sponsoring our locks. We'll track how we're doing each episode, with the winner being presented with the Cash App Locks Trophy at the end of the season. Week 3 didn't go our way. I went 1 of 7. What? You went 2 out of 5. I think that was the most respectable one of the week, outside of Kyle's one pick that did hit, the over on Detroit-Baltimore. And then Harry went 1 out of his 3, but he missed the Bijan one by a half yard. And then CeeDee Lamb, obviously, he got screwed there with the Lamb injury early on. But we bounced back this week. I think a big week's coming for us.
I think so. I think last week was a little bit of we had to take our medicine. Last week, obviously for me, the Packers let me down big time. But
let a lot of people down. Oh my
but
God.
We're going to bounce back this week. This is going to be a good week for us.
All right, let's start with Philadelphia at Tampa Bay, our highlighted game here of the week. Eagles 3.5-point favorites heading to Tampa Bay. 44.5 points is the over-under. Obviously, a big reason for the Eagles being big favorites on the road, more than a field goal favorite, is the state of that Tampa Bay offensive line. Down 2 starters on IR. That was obviously the case last week. Tristan Wirfs still not back yet. Limited participant. This was kind of the first week that they had hoped heading into the season. Doesn't look like he's going to be playing. Chris Godwin, though, a full participant for the first time this week. He could play. That's going to be big because Mike Evans, well, he ain't playing for a while with that hamstring injury. They're not the only ones banged up, though. Eagles have some injuries of their own. Nolan Smith headed to IR this week with a triceps injury. Zach Bond didn't practice this week with the knee injury. Adoree Jackson hasn't practiced with the groin injury. And then Jacorian Bennett, one of their other corners, heads to IR. So they may be on cornerback 4 there, opposite of Quinyon Mitchell. We'll see what happens in this one, but a lot of injuries to track.
This game had so much more juice, and I was so much more excited about this game before all the injuries happened. Obviously, you know,
feels like so many games so far. Like,
yeah,
it feels like a ton of games have been like highly anticipated, and it's just like, wow, these aren't the same teams at all anymore.
Yeah, neither of these teams are the exact same. Without, obviously, Tampa does not have their all-world left tackle. They might have Chris Godwin, which will really help, but they also don't have Mike Evans. So Emeka Egbuka is going to take on a much larger role. I'm still sort of excited for this game, largely because I want to see how Jalen Hurts and this Eagles offense can handle a defense, and Todd Bowles, who has really kind of kicked their ass for the last few years. Like, if you go look at Jalen Hurts' numbers against Tampa, then compare them to every other game that he's played, he has been much worse as a passer. And I think a large part of that is because Todd Bowles isn't afraid to blitz. I think he's ready and willing to play that chaos game against Jalen Hurts. And something that I want Hurts and the Eagles to do is, if they blitz, just throw it to AJ Brown. Like, really, it's simple. I hate to make it so simple, because football's complicated. Like, there's a lot of moving parts to this, but you want to throw it to find your easy buttons against the blitz. The Eagles haven't been able to find that, but this might be the game for them to really turn that up against a Bulls defense that's really going to try and force Jalen Hurts to play off his back foot.
Yeah, I'm excited to see this one. You mentioned Todd Bowles' success against this kind of incantation of the Eagles. They won the game last year. They blew the Eagles out 33-16. They won the playoff game the year prior in the wild card 32-9. So the last 2 times have not been close games going Tampa's way. I just am going to need to see Tampa's offensive line against this Eagles defensive line before I believe it. When you're down 3 starters, there's really only so much you can do. And to me, that's the deciding factor in this game. I don't have a ton of faith in the Eagles themselves moving the ball. If I'm betting anything in this game, it's the under. But I just can't. The Jets are one team. They can get by the Jets. That's a defense that's reeling right now, has been since week 1. I don't think I trust Tampa's offense to put up points on this Eagles defense, even if they are on, cornerback 4, Keely Ringo, across from Quinyon Mitchell.
I can't believe I'm saying this, but for Tampa, if they want to win, they need to keep this game close for Baker Mayfield, which again is a sentence I never thought I would ever say. Baker Mayfield's led 3-game winning drives in the first 3 games of the season. If they can just keep it within a field goal going into the fourth quarter, if they can turn this into, like what you said, a low scoring game, maybe Baker can create some magic at the end of the game. But like you said, I am really worried about this offensive line going up against what might be the best defensive front they've seen this year outside of Houston. So I lean Eagles here, but I also am keeping the window open for some more Baker Mayfield heroics.
And even Houston, they're edge rushers, right? You can game plan. It's just easier to game plan for an edge. You can chip, you can leave a tight end in. The doubles are easier to make work out on the edge. If a guy's rushing off the interior, and again, the Eagles have some good interior rushers, even Moro Jomo has been playing well this year. Jordan Davis looks like the best he's ever rushed the passer this year. What do? You can't really do anything for interior guys. You can max pro, but then you still got some one-on-ones opportunities on the interior for those defensive tackles.
Yeah, and if you max pro, you lose the ability to put 4 or 5 out in pass concepts, which stresses the Eagles' weak point right now, which is they're on their third and fourth corner. So I'm curious what the game plan is going to be heading into this game for Tampa, especially offensively. But I do think Todd Bowles is going to have another really fun game plan against the Eagles offense.
All right, let's get to the Ravens at Chiefs. Ravens 2.5-point favorites here heading into Arrowhead. 48.5 points is the over-under, but this Ravens defense is reeling. Second most points per game in the entire NFL, 32. Only Miami's been worse so far this season. But they're favored heading into this game because of that offense and all that they've done.
This feels like, remember when I said Lions-Bears was the anxiety bowl? This is another anxiety bowl for the week. Because whoever loses this goes to 1-3, and suddenly things get a lot more difficult going into the season for teams that we considered playoff teams that we considered Super Bowl contenders. For the Ravens, I'm just so fascinated by how they play defense because they have such great athletes, such a physical team. They're always on the back foot, like they are always reacting to the opponent. I want to see them sort of be more aggressive up front. And it's going to be hard without Nnamdi Madubuike, who presumably is not going to play on Sunday. Travis Jones didn't practice with an injury. I'm not sure what Kyle Van Noy's status is. It's going to be tough, but for a Chiefs team that doesn't really have any explosive plays or explosive ability, this should be a game for the Ravens that you get out to a lead early and you don't look back. But I'm worried about how this defense is played, especially when it comes to just some of the structural issues I think they have.
Dude, I am very worried because guys you were relying on, guys you thought could play a big role, Jair Alexander, they don't even want to put on the field right now. Marlon Humphrey has been playing terribly. I believe he's top 10 in the NFL in terms of yards allowed through 3 weeks of the season. And when you don't have your guys that can actually get after the opposing passers, when you don't have Nnamdi Madubuike, when you don't have Kyle Van Noy in this game, I love the over in this one. I just think it's going to be, I think the Ravens just aren't built to be the Ravens defense we saw down the stretch last season. Unfortunately, they're the same Ravens defense we saw early on last season that was giving up points left and right. So I like the over, but I still love Baltimore. Kansas City's defense is, we talked about the Ravens' defensive struggles. It's not as if Kansas City's defense has been a world beater by any means. They've given up one of the highest rushing success rates of anyone in the NFL, almost 50% so far this season. That's not going to work against Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry. Like that's still the one thing is that they've still scored points on everyone so far that they faced this season. To beat the Ravens, you got to get to 30. And this Chiefs offense, even against an underpowered Ravens defense, they're just going to struggle to get to 30 consistently.
And even if they get to 30, I mean, the Ravens have put up, I believe, 40, 41, and 30 in 3 games this season. 30 might not beat them, but against this Chiefs team, against this Chiefs defense that lacks a secondary pass rusher, that, like you said, has given up one of the worst success rates on the ground this year, I feel like this should be a game where the Ravens sort of return to that physicality, the meat and vegetables of what the Ravens offense is supposed to be, which is the physicality, which is getting downhill in the run game, using Lamar in the run game, and then you take your shots downfield. This should be a game where the Ravens use it to get their mojo back, get their swagger back. But, for some reason, I think the Chiefs are always going to keep games close because of Patrick Mahomes, but I just think the Ravens have too much offensively.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. One note, though, Xavier Worthy practiced in full, likely to play, so another weapon back for the Kansas City Chiefs receiving corps. All right, Sunday, you can count on an NFL on CBS doubleheader featuring a matchup between MVPs when Lamar Jackson leads the Ravens on the road against Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs. CBS Sports will be on site at Arrowhead beginning at noon Eastern with the NFL Today. You can always count on Sundays with the NFL and CBS and streaming on Paramount+.
Lamar dancing around the pocket. He does this so well. All the way for the touchdown.
All right, Colts at Rams. Rams 3.5-point favorites here at home. 49.5 points is the over-under. The only real injury of note, Steve Avila, who's been out since week 1, the Rams guard. Sean McVay this week said, we'll see. Has not practiced in full yet. They've very much struggled in pass pro without him. Guys like Justin Dedich in that interior getting worked a little bit currently. Now, you may not trust them. They may not always be accurate. PFF has them as the lowest rated pass blocking unit in the NFL so far this season. Matt Stafford obviously uniquely equipped to handle that, but this Colts offense can put up points. They are absolutely rolling. How we see this one going?
I'm so curious for this game for the Colts if they can play from behind against a team with a pulse offensively. I think the teams that they've faced so far this season, the Dolphins are who they are. The Broncos are still trying to figure themselves out offensively. And then, of course, the Titans are who they are. This is the first legitimate, very real test for a Colts team that has been an upstart this season. I really wonder if they're going to be able to get pass rush. That has been my biggest question for the Colts, especially with JT Tuimoloau still injured, Leatu Latu coming back from injury. Can they get pressure? Because if they can't get pressure, it nullifies one of the biggest weaknesses for the Rams, which is their pass protection. If they can't get pressure, Matthew Stafford's going to shred them in coverage. I think he is uniquely equipped to handle some of the coverage looks that Lou Anarumo is going to throw at him because he has seen everything there is to see when it comes to coverage. And then I just worry about this secondary going forward in this game. And if you have to play from behind, a lot of the play action, you can't really run. If you can't get the run game going for the Colts, I just wonder if this Colts team can play on the back foot.
I am curious to see, because this is the best offense they've faced so far. They've obviously, I think the Titans, the Dolphins, two of the worst defenses in the NFL, but they did do well against the Broncos defense. I think they will still put up points against this Los Angeles Rams defense. It's more, how real has the Colts defensive success been, and has it been aided by just playing some offenses that are kind of sputtering out the gate here? But I kind of like Daniel Jones and this offense still rolling against this Rams defense. He gets the ball out of his hands quickly. He's mobile to break the pocket, and they have so many options. I think that's the most interesting thing about this Colts offense this year, is that you legitimately have, and now Alec Pierce may miss this game, TBD on how he stands with injury suffered last week. But even if it's Adonai Mitchell, you have 5 weapons on every single play that are legitimate threats that you have to worry about. Not a lot of teams are sending that out the way the Colts are. I mean, the Rams aren't even. The Rams have like 2 and then the running back out of the backfield, but like you're really not worrying about the other guys there really beating you. That's not the case with the Colts. A lot of these guys can hit explosive plays any given play. So I'm just excited to see this one. I don't have a real take either way, but I don't see this Colts train stopping, is all I'll say. I don't think this is a come down to earth moment. They might lose this game, but I don't think they look like they're not on par with a team like the Rams.
Something that I am going to be looking out for in this game, especially when it comes to Colts offense versus Rams defense, Shane Steichen has done a great job this season putting linebackers in hell when it comes to motion, when it comes to the play action and getting Tyler Warren or Michael Pittman Jr. sliding back across the formation and on those bootlegs. the Rams linebackers are not good. Like they're just not a good unit, and it again is a reflection of how they've tried to build this team. So if they can get the linebackers isolated in pass protection on Tyler Warren, if you can get them isolated on Josh Downs, or even Michael Pittman Jr. over the middle of the field, I think you have a chance to create explosives. And again, Daniel Jones gets the ball out on time because he's able to because Shane Steichen is able to dress up and able to design all this stuff, so Daniel Jones knows exactly where to go with the ball, exactly when he hits his back foot. So I'm curious to see how they do against a Rams defensive front that likes to get quick pressures. Mm-hmm. But I think this game is actually going to be a shootout. I think it's going to be a high-scoring one, and I'm staying away from a prediction here because I don't know.
I'm gonna do it. I think I'll pick the Colts in this one. I think it keeps rolling. I think at least to cover 3.5 points. I think they keep it within a field goal. And I think you hit the nail on the head. The linebackers is what I worry about. The middle of the football field. Omar Spates. We talked about his awareness or relative lack thereof in coverage. They will pepper you over the middle of the football field. I mean, they send so many guys out there, whether it's Josh Downs, whether it's Tyler Warren, whether it's Michael Pittman, that are adept at exposing those intermediate areas of the football field in zone coverage. So, we'll see though. All right, let's get to the Jags at 49ers. Can we put some freaking respect on this Jags team going into a team that's missing their starting quarterback in Brock Purdy for the San Francisco 49ers, missing their best defensive player? Unfortunately, Nick Bosa tore his ACL out for the season. And they are 3-point dogs in this game. And now they have lost to a backup quarterback already this year in the Cincinnati Bengals. But they at least, I think, covered 3 points in that game. 47.5 points is the over-under. I love the Jags in this one. I'm just going to say it. I think they roll.
I think that underdog is the Jags tax, which is the Jaguars. Anything can happen in a Jaguars game. But I also think it's due to the fact that the 49ers defense has played incredibly well. Now, this is going to be the first game without Nick Bosa, which is going to change a lot of the numbers for their pass rush. It's going to have to be a big Bryce Huff game. They like moving Mykel Williams to the inside at defensive tackle to rush the passer. I wonder if they try and keep him outside more just because they have to. But one thing that the Jags have done very well this season is adapt. The offense has been able to adapt and thrive in situations where they're put on the back foot. And honestly, despite what the numbers will tell you, I think Trevor Lawrence has played pretty good. I mean, the Jaguars lead the NFL in drops. They're the only team with double-digit drops this season. And then you can just tell, outside of penalties, the Jaguars' offense is moving the ball. They are moving the ball really well. I think they have to have a really clean operation against the 49ers, especially because that second level is so fast, and I think they're going to try and slow down the run game a little bit more. But with Brenton Strange being sort of the underneath option, I think they're going to try and get a lot more opportunities after the catch. And then I would honestly kind of expect a little bit more downfield stuff for Brian Thomas Jr. You know, I think one of the weaknesses of this 49ers defense is their secondary. They can be burned for big plays, for big explosives, and that's something that the Jaguars really haven't tried to hit yet. But against the Texans, they had a lot of opportunities. There was I think it was Mills concept, where there was Travis Hunter run a little end breaker, and then De'Ami Brown run a post behind it. And it was open, but I think De'Ami Brown keeps it vertical, and Trevor Lawrence throws him like a post. And then there was another one that I think it was also to Parker Washington that they also missed on. So they're really close to hitting these explosive plays. And I think this is the game that the explosives start to happen. And if they can get out to a lead, if they can force the 49ers with a backup quarterback potentially to play from behind, I think this Jaguars pass rush and this defense has played really well in forcing teams into mistakes. So I'm not – again – I'm trying to emotionally hedge against this team because I know they can always screw it up. But I feel like this is a game that the Jaguars should win.
So I am right there with you. And for all the reasons you said, like when you watch this team more intently than just looking at the stats, it's crazy how much meat on the bone they're leaving in terms of drops, in terms of the errors you're talking about, miscommunications, in terms of the penalties that we've discussed. Like there is just so much that if you just have a relatively clean game, they would be blowing teams out, right? Like they look like the better side in each one. And I think the thing that also gets swept on the rug is how good this defense has been. Second in the NFL in terms of EPA per play against so far this season. Jordan Lewis has been awesome for them in the secondary. The pass rush looks all the way back and kind of like what everyone expected it to be last year and just never came to fruition. It's just like, if they just get out of their own way, this is a damn good football team. And the 49ers just, what are you going to do without your two best players? Without your two most important players, I guess, without your starting quarterback, without your starting pass rusher, best pass rusher, Nick Bosa. And both their starting wide receivers, the healthy wide receivers, are not healthy anymore. Ricky Pearsall didn't practice yesterday with a knee injury. Juwan Jennings still not practicing with an ankle injury. It's like they really don't have all the options that.
Eventually, you're going to run out of people.
Yes. So for all those reasons, I love this one. I love the Jags this one. I believe I made it one of my locks. I can't remember now off the top of my head, but I think I did. All right. Let's get to the Minnesota Vikings at the Pittsburgh Steelers, where it looks like it's still going to be the Carson Wentz show. And truthfully, that's probably for the best of the Vikings at this point with the way J.J. McCarthy was playing. And that's why they're 2.5-point favorites. Another backup quarterback being a favorite heading to the Pittsburgh Steelers. 40.5 points is the over-under in this one, but the Vikings are a little banged up even outside of J.J. McCarthy. Javon Hargrave, Andrew Van Ginkel, Donovan Jackson, all not practiced yesterday. Could be all out for this game against the Pittsburgh Steelers.
What I'm so curious in is if the Steelers are actually going to be able to throw the ball downfield. However you think the Steelers offense has played this season, Aaron Rodgers has not thrown the ball downfield. They have largely been a yards after the catch, screen game, quick game operation. The Vikings want you to throw it quick. They want you to throw it hot because they don't have the corners to stay in coverage downfield. That is part of the reason why Brian Flores is amazing, is because he gets every team he plays to throw it hot, because you're so worried about the blitzing and you're so worried about the free runners. And something that Aaron Rodgers has always done against free runners and against blitz looks is he throws it hot. He will change the route. He'll change it to a screen. He'll change it to quick game. That's something that happened against the Jets or against the Vikings when he was on the Jets. We remember the Andrew Van Ginkel pick six. It was Aaron Rodgers changing the play to a hot route, and the Vikings gamed them. I wonder if the Vikings go in with that same game plan, because this is pretty much the same Aaron Rodgers that we saw last year. And I just wonder if the Steelers are actually going to be able to attack downfield, because if they don't, then I worry about this Vikings offense just having the ball too many times.
Yeah, I do not trust the Steelers offense to move it, even though it's like Rodgers has seen it all. He's seen all the blitz looks. He saw them literally last year, like you said. I believe that game was that the game that Sal ended up getting fired after, or was that?
I think it was.
That was overseas. Yeah, that he did not have a good game against them last year, but I just feel like at home, for some reason, I feel like the Steelers are going to pull another one out here, pull another rabbit out of their hat. Now, for the Vikings, you do get Jordan Addison back. You have, obviously, Justin Jefferson. You get the sort of wide receiver duo back that is so dynamic. I just don't trust Carson Wentz. I'm just going to say I just don't trust Carson Wentz. You can do it against Cincinnati Bengals. I think the Steelers is still a little bit different animal this week.
See, I would say I don't trust Carson Wentz, but I also don't trust the Steelers defense. I just don't think the Steelers
a lot no trust going on around here.
This is like the least trustworthy game of all time. You have a quarterback you can't trust. You have a defense you can't trust. A quarterback you can't trust to throw the ball downfield, and you're also in Ireland. This is the Dublin game,
yes.
So we don't know what's going to happen overseas. So I have a feeling the Vikings win this one, and the questions around the Steelers get a lot louder. But I think this game, one of my locks is Aaron Rodgers under his passing yards total, which is 202.5, which I really battled with because that is a low number. But I just don't think they're going to throw the ball downfield enough.
A really underrated storyline for the Steelers defense, and we've talked about how they're aging. TJ Watt has 7 pressures in 3 games. TJ Watt has not looked like the guy that you pay $40 million to. Not even like he doesn't even look close to the same guy. I am worried about what that contract's going to look like, and just basically the Steelers cap situation, given that they have so much money going to so many guys who are not producing at this point in time, unfortunately. And now they're 2-1, but like,
it's a real tenuous 2-1.
Yeah. I will say we talked about the Ravens and like they need to win. The AFC North has not turned it 2 years. It's fallen off a cliff seemingly this season. The Ravens can lose that game, and I think they are still far and away the favorites to win the North. There's really no challengers that stepped up to the plate this year. At least Steelers are 2-1. They're at the top of the division, but they really don't look like a big time threat to them. Some locks here. You got Aaron Rodgers under 202.5 passing yards, and Harry's got actually the over in this one. Harry sees some points getting put on the board. 40.5 is that over. All right, let's get to the Commanders at Falcons. Commanders 1.5 point favorites on the road. We still don't know Jaden Daniels' status for this game. Limited participant in practice. Obviously for the Commanders' perspective, they've scored points with Marcus Mariota as a backup, so 45.5 points is still the over-under in this one. Don't know AJ Terrell's status just yet. He obviously did not play last week with that hamstring injury, so big injuries to monitor, but I don't know what to make of this Falcons team. Their defense has been so good. Best pass defense in the NFL, 131 yards per game, best EPA per play defensively in the NFL. But they've been kind of the opposite of what everyone expected. If you bet, did the Falcons through 3 weeks have the best offense in the NFL or the best defense in the NFL? I think everyone and their mother would have bet offense. But that has not been the case so far this season for the Atlanta Falcons.
It feels like the offense and defense have flipped, like you said, in the offense is incredibly volatile and the defense is consistent. When we thought the offense would be consistent and the defense was incredibly volatile. But for the Falcons' benefit, they're also playing an incredibly volatile defense. Like they are also playing a team that will give up a lot of big plays through the air. So I just wonder if this is the game that they can get their passing offense back on track. Can you get some explosives downfield, Michael Penix Jr.? I do think that some of the offensive structural stuff, I've said it before, I think the Falcons just avoiding going under center for the last 2 years has been really weird, whether it be because Kirk can't move, but now Michael Penix is in the game, and you're still not under center very much, but you're just kind of giving away tells when you're in pistol and when you're in shotgun, because it feels like every time you're in pistol, it's a run or like play action, and then in shotgun, you're throwing the ball. It's an obvious throwing the ball situation. I think
it is. I was going to say it's a little crazy, but also they are the purest zone running team in the NFL. They do not do literally anything else. They are an inside-outside zone running team.
I said before, I think Zach Robinson and the Falcons are the purest distillation of what Sean McVay's offenses used to be.
Yeah.
Which is heavy outside zone, heavy play action off of that. And the problem is you're going to run all this zone, they're going to run all this play action, and there's nothing over the middle of the field. So you're pulling all these linebackers up for nothing. You're just not doing anything to attack the eyes of the linebackers. But that's where I think this game could be the big Kyle Pitts game, because Bobby Wagner has not been good in coverage. Bobby Wagner has been good in coverage for a while now. He is basically, you have two linebackers in Bobby Wagner and Frankie Louvu who are designated blitzers. They are basically extra defensive linemen. I think if you want to get Pitts involved over the middle of the field, if you want to try and attack the middle of the field, this is the game for it, because I don't think the Commanders are that good at covering passes over the middle of the field. So I think both teams put up points here. I don't know who's going to win this game, largely because I don't know who's going to play quarterback for the Commanders, but this should be a game where the Falcons get their offense back on track.
Yeah, Michael Penix's unwillingness to attack the middle of the football field this season has been, I think, the most worrisome thing about, because that was, I don't want to say his MO coming out of Washington, but he is a guy who loves attacking outside the numbers. He's got a big arm. That's kind of what he does. But he has 8 attempts all season long, 10 plus yards between the numbers. That's like, for what they're trying to do. When you do stretch zone, running game, play action, you are doing it to open up that area of the football field. And if you're not willing to attack that area of the football field, it's just going to look disjointed, as unfortunately we've seen from the Atlanta Falcons so far. All those reasons I like the Commanders in this one. I just do. I think their running game, they'll move the ball. on Atlanta. And if AJ Terrell's not out there, I just don't trust anyone to be able to handle Terry and Debo.
I kind of want to go Falcons here because I think this is the game that they get it right offensively, and I'm a big fan of their defense. But with AJ Terrell potentially not playing, I really struggle to see who's going to defend Terry McLaurin and Debo Samuel, especially if Jaden Daniels plays. So I'm going to pick Washington here, but I do think it is a very, very close game.
All right, let's get to Sunday Night Football, where the Packers travel to Dallas to face the Cowboys. Packers are 6.5-point favorites. 47.5 points is the over-under in this one. And it's the Micah Parsons revenge game. Micah Parsons, he doesn't need a lot of help getting up for games, but I am going to go on a limb and say he's going to get to another level in this one. That's just kind of who he is. That's just kind of how he's built. And I'm not betting against Micah Parsons in this game.
It's also a Kenny Clark revenge game. We got a double revenge game here. But yeah, Micah Parsons against a still learning Cowboys pass protection. I think they are very good at running the ball, but they've given up a lot of pressures as a pass protection unit. And Tyler Steen's going to be out for an extended period of time.
Tyler Booker.
Tyler Booker, excuse me. Yeah. Tyler Booker is going to be out for an extended period of time with the ankle injury. CeeDee Lamb also going to be out for an extended period of time with an ankle injury. Those are your two of your best players on offense. And you're going up against a defense that just shuts everything down up front. You're losing your best run blocker. You're losing your best receiver. I just worry about, again, the Cowboys not being able to move the ball. And then if you can't get pass rush against this Packers offense that might not have two of their best pass protectors, but it might not matter. If you can't get pass rush against this team, they're going to bomb it downfield, and they're going to create a lot of explosives. So I think this game gets ugly fast, and the Cowboys are going to have to play on the back foot, which is the benefit of Micah Parsons and the Packers defense.
Yeah, if you're playing backups as the Cowboys are at center and right guard now going into this game, you're going to struggle against this Packers team. You just are. Now, the Packers on the flip side are going to be playing backups at likely right tackle and left guard in this one, but I think a little bit more uniquely qualified given their depth there and just given how they run their offense and given the fact that the Cowboys don't really have great pass rushers to expose it. So all those reasons, I like the Packers. This is actually one of my locks. It's not the line. It's Jordan Love going over 228.5 passing yards because Dallas is allowing 288 passing yards per game this year. They are one of the worst pass defenses in the NFL. And probably no Trayvon Diggs in this one, maybe no Deron Bland in this one, and maybe no Trikweze Bridges, which means I don't even know. They're going to be throwing out me at cornerback in the second half if they have any injuries. So it's getting ugly there for Dallas, a secondary. Harry had Green Bay covering, though, 6.5. So Harry's all in on the Packers.
There's going to be a big Matthew Golden touchdown cat. They are so close to the super explosive Matthew Golden play. And I think this is the game that's going to happen. If it's going to happen against this Cowboys team.
Yeah, if it's going to happen against anyone, this would feel like the week that it should happen. All right. We're going to take a quick break. After that, Monday Night Football, the doubleheader coming up, and the rest of the slate. Bengals at Broncos. Broncos 7.5-point favorites. 43.5 points is the over/under here. Yeah, I don't know what too much to talk about it. We've kind of read the eulogy for the Bengals season already. If the Broncos don't win this one going away, if they don't basically, I don't want to say they don't have to do what the Vikings just did, but they need to just look like a damn good football team to give that offense, give that roster a shot in the arm. And Bo Nix just needs to have a good game. For this team to feel like they can be back in the playoff mix, back in the AFC West mix, truthfully.
This game would have been so much cooler if Joe Burrow was playing. Which you're going to say for a lot of Bengals games going forward this season. This game would be so much cooler if Joe Burrow was at quarterback. But I think the thing that I'll be watching in this game is, like you said, if Bo Nix can create something downfield within the structure of the offense. Mm-hmm. Because going back and watching the Chargers game, there are opportunities downfield. Sean Payton has drawn up this offense where there are a lot of verticality, a lot of explosive plays that the Broncos have left on the field because Bo Nix is just missing downfield. And a large part of it has to do with his footwork. He is just, I don't know how to describe it. Like, he's jumpy. Like, every pass is a jump pass. And it's just like, hey, man, just get all your cleats in the ground and throw the ball downfield. That is when you're most accurate. I do think that this should be the game where they can get some explosives going. They should be able to get some stuff downfield. But like you said, this should be a Vance Joseph and Broncos defense just turn this game into a complete mismatch.
Yeah, the Knicks throw last week where he's literally sprinting into his own offensive lineman as he throws it. It's just like, dude, what are you doing? Like,
be normal.
Yes, please. Just, he feels like he's a shortstop fielding an incoming ground ball every time he throws it. Where it's like he just has to be running a little bit forward, and then lo and behold, he's overthrowing every single pass. So maybe calm down a little bit. But the Broncos, 3 of the top 12 players right now in terms of pressures in the NFL play for the Denver Broncos. That's gonna get it done against the Bengals offensive line that, I mean, the past 2 weeks has just been a nightmare. Their tackles are okay. I think Amaris Mims has actually been, one-on-one situations solid, but they are one of the worst at passing off stuff that I've seen in the NFL this year. Just no semblance of communication, just a mismatch sort of how they built this offensive line with like skinny guards and huge tackles. And it just feels there's just no plan. Like we talked about, I've discussed how I think Nick Caserio and his inability to put it off the line in front of CJ Stroud is like a fireable offense. What they've done to Joe Burrow now, if you're not going to fire Duke Tobin after this year, given how much they've just, I mean, it is the offensive line. Like it's still the offensive line. 4 years now of it just being a problem week in and week out. I think if they don't move on from this year, I don't know how as a Bengals fan, you're not just riding the streets.
And it's so fascinating. Like you said, they have these massive tackles that are able to mow you down in the run game and are pretty good in pass pro. And then you have the worst collection of interior offensive line talent in the league because they're too small, they're not athletic, and they also get run over in pass protection. They can't run the ball because they can't run block between the guard, center guard. And then all the pressure is coming from up the middle of the defense, which is exactly where you don't want to come from as a quarterback. So what's happening here? And this is a terrible matchup for them because you have DJ Jones, Zach Allen, John Franklin Myers. They can rotate a lot of guys in and just take it to this defense, take it to this offense. So I think this game probably gets out of hand quick.
Yeah, I love the under in this one just because, well, how the Broncos offense has looked, one, and then how the Bengals offense has looked, two. All right, let's get to the other Monday Night Football matchup. Jets at Dolphins. Dolphins 2.5-point favorites. Yeah, that's not a typo. Dolphins are favored in this game. Sorry, Jets. 44.5 points is the over-under. Quincy Williams, linebacker for the Jets, goes on IR this week, unfortunately, with a shoulder injury. Man, I don't know. This is a Monday night slate from hell. This is not how the NFL saw this one going when the schedule makers put it out back in May.
The best and brightest, the greatest teams in America, prime time. The New York Jets with Tyrod Taylor at quarterback against the dead-in-the-water Miami Dolphins, who are wearing quite possibly one of the stinkiest uniforms I've ever seen.
Oh, they're going with it.
I need to actually see the uniforms in like action because all the shots they've had of promoting the rivalry series uniforms for the Dolphins have looked terrible. It looks like they tried to get as close to black as possible with these uniforms, but it's still not. It's like navy blue, and then it's
the create a team NFL Blitz or NFL Live uniforms. Where like this is like the default, the Tiburon or whatever uniforms you'd get.
Yeah, this looks like a team builder uniform that somebody imports. Like, what are we doing here? This might be the stinkiest game of the week. And that's a game. We have Carson Wentz playing football, and he's not a part of the stinkiest game of the week. So, I mean, I don't know. I really don't. I think the Dolphins should be able to create explosives but they're also going to give up a lot of explosives. I honestly could see this game like being a little low-key shootout.
Are we? It honestly could be. I mean, because they're both giving up over 30 points per game at this point in time. They are two of the worst defenses in the NFL, and usually defense travels. As they say, usually if you're a bad defense, you're a bad defense against everyone. So I do think that's a distinct possibility. But are we at the point with either of these teams that it's one of those, hey, we don't want to win bowls, where we're like, hey, we're kind of playing. We like to keep it close. We want to have an entertaining one. We want to see like our rookies and like youngsters do well, but we don't really want to win this game. We want to be in next year's quarterback class.
I think the Jets maybe, but the Dolphins have to start winning because their head coach and GM's jobs are on the line if they don't start winning. If the Jets beat the Dolphins in Miami on Monday, I guarantee you there are going to be some real uncomfortable conversations around Mike McDaniel's job if they lose to Tyrod Taylor and the Jets. But yeah, I think the Jets at this point, without Justin Fields, you want to see how the young guys are playing. Armand Membu has been fantastic. I think both tackles have actually been very good. It's just you're still trying to find out who you are defensively, and that's just going to take some time. It took some time with the Lions with Aaron Glenn as defensive coordinator. It's still going to take some time. So as long as the Jets are competitive, like I think it's going to be fine.
All right, let's get to Bears at Raiders. Raiders 1.5 point favorites. 47.5 points is the over under here. Darnell Wright may not play with an elbow injury. That'd be big, obviously, because one Max Crosby lines up on that side of the football field. Kyler Gordon, still a DNP with a hammy. That means they're obviously down their top two corners there in Chicago. Once again, I like the over, and I like the passing yards in this game. If you want to go over for both guys, I wouldn't hate it, but I'm going over Caleb Williams, 232.5, because one, they can't run the ball, and two, I think it's going to be a little bit of a shootout.
If you want to see a Big 12 game in the NFL, this is the game you're going to want to watch. Both these teams have terrible passing defenses, and both these teams have quarterbacks who are going to throw the ball downfield. I think both teams can't really run the ball. Although if I were picking any team that could finally start trying to get it done a little bit, it might be the Raiders, because I think Ashton Junty, it's been so fascinating watching the Ashton Junty conversation because he's still like creating. And if you watch him play, he still looks every bit like the guy that we saw coming out of Boise State. It's just every two plays he's getting hit in the backfield. And those are plays that aren't his fault. There are a lot of things that he still has to learn in the NFL, but a lot of it's just the offensive line has played poorly. And I think Pete Carroll has shied away from making changes on the offensive line, rotating guys. I think they're sticking with Jackson Powers-Johnson at guard. But this game should feature a lot of points, should feature a lot of passing yards. I don't even know who I think wins this game because there's just so much volatility on both sides of the ball for both teams.
Yeah, I'm right there with you, and like I don't know who's going to win or like have any great handle on it. I would lean Bears just because I think their offense has a little bit more dynamism at the playmaker position. But Ashton Jetty, there was a play I tweeted out that was unbelievable. It was a 2nd and 10 run where 3 different defenders touched him 3 yards in the backfield. 3 different guys got hands on him 3 yards deep before he could even make a move. That's just, I mean, plays like that they should be once a game. They're not once a game, like once a season. They're multiple times a game. For this, right? Like you watch the Eagles running game. It's just like, it just never happens. You just never have free runners going into the backfield like that. Well-coached offensive lines just don't.
Yeah, and that's where the Raiders are. They are a poorly coached offensive line. And you can tell the way that they pass off protections, the way that they communicate on the offensive line, or the lack of communication. They are a poorly coached unit. So if anything's going to change with the Raiders, it's got to be the coaching. It's got to be how they teach their offensive linemen, because you're sinking your top draft pick from this year because you can't coach the offensive line.
Brutal. All right, Cleveland Browns at Detroit Lions. Lions 9.5 point favorites here. 44.5 points is the over under. Can the Browns get a little respect? They just put it to the Packers. Are we Are we buying the Browns defense being able to slow down this Lions offense?
Low-key, one of the picks I wanted to make was the under in this game because I just think this Browns defensive line is so good that they could turn every game into a rock fight. And they have the talent up front where the Lions' offense is weak through the interior of the offensive line. I think Malik Collins is playing really well. Mason Graham coming off his best game as a pro. Shelby Harris playing really well. And then, you have Myles Garrett, the best defensive player on the planet, on one side, and then you have such a complement and battery of pass rushers that I think this game will probably be more low scoring because they can get pressure with 4. You're not having to send blitzes. You're not having to – when the Browns can just rush with 4 and avoid just play cover 2 or play cover 1 and say beat us that way, they're pretty darn good. But I do think the Lions win. I think this one is – it's tough to say it's a blowout because it'd be low scoring, but a low scoring – I feel like it's going to be like 24-7 or something, or like 20-3. I think this defense is good enough to keep it low scoring, but the offense, again, just you're not going to be able to do anything.
Yeah, the Cleveland Browns offense it's just anemic. It's just difficult to watch. And now they're on – backup tackles, DeJuan Jones out for the season. So, yeah, I like the under. Harry loves Jahmyr Gibbs over 26.5 receiving yards in this game. That's one of his locks of the week. But the Browns, it sucks that when a team wastes a defense like this, right? Like this should be a must-see defense. If they just had anything on the opposite side of the ball, they could make the playoffs. That's how good this front 4 is. But nope, I don't think it's happening.
It's a miracle that they even beat the Packers last week because that is some of the worst offense that I've ever seen. They just can barely move the ball, and if they could still barely move the ball, like I don't think they're going to stand a chance in any game.
I will say though, the interesting thing about the Browns, and I'm not sure it necessarily matters too much, but they've had an absolute gauntlet to start the season. Bengals, Ravens, Packers, Lions. They could have legitimately faced 3 of the 5 best teams in the NFL and another division rival when Joe Burrow was healthy. So like they haven't had a game against a team where it's like that they should be on par with. Everyone's calling them one of the worst teams in the NFL. I'm like, yeah, offensively they definitely are. But we really haven't seen them against a team that, they would potentially be on semi-equal footing with the team that you didn't expect to be in the playoff mix early on the season. All right, let's get to Titans at Texans. Texans 7.5-point favorites, despite being 0-3. 38.5 points is the over-under. Someone's going to come out of here with a win, unless we tie. So I guess maybe not. But some injuries. J.C. Latham, still out with a hip. If he's not playing in this game, that's obviously big against those Texans pass rushing duo. And then Tavondre Sweat, we didn't touch on it last week, but right before last week's game, he went on IR with an ankle injury. So the Tennessee Titans trade away their best corner, out their right tackle, out their second best defensive tackle. They got Jeffrey Simmons paying at like a defensive player of the year level right now. Like he's dominating, but no one else really showing up to the plate. They're averaging 31.1 points per game against this season. If the Texans offense can't get right this week, well, they may never get right.
Something's got to give in this game. Something has to change for the Texans offense in this game. They should at least maybe be able to run the ball, maybe a little bit. You should be able to get some more Nico Collins passing game stuff going. One of my locks is the over in this game, partially because I think like either the Texans win this going away or this turns into like one of those like low key, like close shootout games because Cam Ward, like it's tough because he is playing against one of the best defenses in the league and he is going to make a lot of mistakes. He's also going to do something incredibly fun and try and keep this team in it because even when like, I'm not even going to say they haven't been blown out in games because they have, but they've scored 19, 20. The only game they really haven't like scored a lot of points in is the first game of the season against one of the best defenses in the league. So I feel like this game turns into one where the over hits, But if the Texans don't win this one, then yeah, it's time to start getting somebody out of here.
Yeah, they have to win. I mean, like you call it must win. This is as must win as it gets. Your season is toast if you lose the Titans. I think they will, because when I watch the Titans, I am just in awe of how bad this roster is. There's just, if you're looking for encouraging signs, I don't have anything for you. I mean, it's just Cam Ward. It feels as bad as when, Bryce Young, his first season, Trevor Lawrence, his first season, but maybe even worse, truthfully, just because there's not a young guy in the pipeline. There's not anyone else coming up with with Cam seemingly, whether it's a wide receiver, whether it's the offensive line who haven't looked, JT Latham's been out. There's just not a lot of encouraging signs, unfortunately, not to really hammer home the Titans here, but it feels like it's going to be a 3 to 4 year process to build this thing back up.
And what was supposed to be the next biggest thing, the next biggest reason why you're able to add a quarterback is the offensive line grows with him. That offensive line has not played well. Granted, they have played the Broncos, they've played the Rams, they're about to play the Texans, 3 incredibly talented defensive lines, but they have been clearly outmatched and overwhelmed in all those games. You just worry that you gave Bill Callahan, you gave him too much to there's only so much Bill Callahan can do. So I think this is just I think they knew it going in, but the Titans this season should be worried about Cam Ward, making sure he leaves this season 1 in one piece, and 2, feeling good about his growth.
Yeah. All right, let's get to Chargers at Giants. Chargers 6.5-point favorites here, heading to the Giants. And it's the Jackson Dart Bowl. Harry's got Jackson Darts under 188.5 as a lock. I have Jackson Darts under 188.5 as a lock. It's not as if the Chargers are allowing a lot of success to opposing passers that aren't rookies. Only 182 yards per game they've allowed so far this season. So not the easiest matchup for your rookie quarterback. We said it had to happen after last week. But if you were just like timing it up, this was not probably the game I would want to throw him to the Wolves.
Yeah, this is the worst game possible to throw him to the Wolves against. This is one of the best defenses, if not the best defense in the NFL right now. And what they do so well at is closing space and tackling and playing on a string together. If you're going to run the RPO, Mickey Mouse stuff to get Jackson Dart acclimated, the best thing you can do is win after the catch, or else all those screens stay 3 yards and 4 yards instead of 7 to 8. And the Chargers do such a good job at making sure that those 3 and 4 yards stay at 3 and 4 yards. They are so incredibly well coached as a tackling unit, and they are physical. One of my locks I tried to find, I couldn't find the Cam Scadaboo rushing attempts, because I think they're just going to try and hammer the Jackson Dart, Cam Scadaboo run game, because I wouldn't try and throw the ball on this defense.
I know they don't have any of the unfortunately the Giants props up yet on FanDuel, but I think it's, if you just any Scadaboo touches, I think just the amount of, whether it's receptions, whether it's rushing attempts, just take the over. It's going to be a Cam Scadaboo game, but I don't think it's going to be a close game. It's a rookie quarterback, and one who we hammered home in the draft season that hey, he didn't play in an NFL offense. It was about as not close to an NFL offense as you'll see from a draft prospect. He's going to need some time, and there's really only so much you can do at the NFL when the lights are on to scheme around that. There's only so many easy buttons you can push when a defense is as good as the Los Angeles Chargers. So, yeah, I think Chargers win going away, truthfully.
Yeah, I think this game might be over real soon, largely just because the Chargers defense is going to make this so incredibly uncomfortable. And Giants fans, you just got to understand that this is just the best defense in the league. You can still hold the line.
All right, let's get to Panthers at Patriots. Patriots 5.5-point favorites. No one buying the Panthers turnaround last week in the big win over the Falcons. 43.5 points is the over-under. Some injuries, though, and they are for the Carolina Panthers. T-Mac, Tedarrell McMillan didn't practice with a calf. Xavier Legette didn't practice with a hammy. Turk Wharton didn't practice with a hammy. And then Robert Hunt, the guard, goes on IR. For the flip side, Patriots, Jared Wilson, ankle injury, didn't practice. The only meaningful injury there for them.
So I want to ask you this, because watching back the Patriots game against the Steelers, I feel like they're really close to actually just being competent at running the football, because some of the stuff schematically they're doing is fine. I like what Josh McDaniels has done, but their tight ends can't sustain blocks at all. I think there was a play they tried to run a wham with Hunter Henry, wham and a nose tackle, and he just gets none of them. Just doesn't he? It's like the nose tackle for the Steelers, I think it was Loudermilk, just swats him aside. And it's just all those outside zone, those toss runs, none of their edge blockers. Mac Hollins hasn't played well as a blocker. Hunter Henry, none of their tight ends or tight end body types have blocked well on the edge. And then the second one was Jared Wilson has no play strength. Like, that was the biggest thing coming out of the draft at Georgia, was he's just not very strong at the point of attack. And every time against the Steelers, they tried to run that way, Jared Wilson was losing at the point of attack. So I feel like they're close. It's just, they just need different body types.
Dude, Jared Wilson was one of those guys coming out where you play center and you write down center only. You're like, this guy should not be playing guard in the NFL. And I think he's going to be a damn good center, but I mean, it comes back to what I've unfortunately been harping on for a while. Elliott Wolf, the way he's built this roster, what he did this offseason. Yeah, he had a ton of talent. He had a ton of picks at his disposal, a ton of money at his disposal. But what he added, it just felt like a mismatch. It felt like kind of a grab bag of players that aren't fitting in correctly. They're not even using Travion Henderson. They're playing Jared Wilson out of position. Stephon Diggs is, I said it since week one, it's still true. I don't even think he should be out there over a guy like Kyle Williams, who adds more dynamism to the offense. There's just a lot of pieces that got added to the offense. Now, the defense, I think you're seeing guys like, Milton Williams is a dude. Like, he's actually playing well. I think Robert Spillane has been an upgrade. Like, the additions there, I'm fine with. But the offensive additions, what they did, there just is no rhyme or reason to how these guys are fitting in now, unfortunately.
Yeah, it just hasn't been enough.
Yeah.
It hasn't been enough to lift this team outside of Drake May making everybody better, which I think that he is, but he's also a second-year player still trying to figure out what he's got going on. So it feels like the margin for error for this offense is so thin, because as well as I think Will Campbell has started off his career, he and Jared Wilson have had issues communicating on stunts. One of the sacks Drake May took, there was a stunt where I think it's man protection to Jared Wilson and Will Campbell's side, and neither of them pass off the stunt very well. And you end up with Cam Hayward completely unblocked because they don't pass off that stunt. So it's so difficult because you're playing an extremely movable Panthers defense, but I don't know if the Patriots are the team that's going to be able to move them. I think one of my locks is the under in this game, because I think this is just going to be a little bit of a slog.
Yeah, I agree with you there. What do we think about Will Campbell at tackle? Obviously, the arm length was a big thing. I was a little worried about last week because he struggled with Nick Herbig. Herbig's no slouch. He's a darn good pass rusher. He might be the Steelers' best pass rusher, truthfully, at this point. But he should be the guy that Will Campbell shuts down. He has himself, Herbig, 31-inch arms, just over 31-inch arms. He's not winning with length. That is a guy you should shut down as an athlete. And he really hasn't faced a true, Josh Sweat, how he exposed Joe Thuney in the Super Bowl. He hasn't faced a rusher like that, who's a long 34 to 35-inch arm sort of bull rusher, to really see how he can handle that. Are we still feeling confident at Will Campbell at tackle?
So I always said Will Campbell will be a fine tackle, but he'd be an incredible guard. And the reason why isn't because of the arm length. It's because he oversets in pass pro. And part of that is because he doesn't have long arms, so he has to overcompensate by getting to the corner as fast as possible. But against a guy like Nick Herbig, who is so good at using your angles and using your own oversetting against you, I think he struggled a lot. largely just because like he was giving up the inside really quickly. I think if you can say like, yeah, he can figure that out because a lot of guys figure out how to not overset in pass pro as they get more reps. But I just think that he would be much better. And it's again, like it's such a fascinating thing with Elliott Wolf and how he's built this offensive line is you have a left tackle who might be better as a guard and a left guard who might be better as a center. And those are your first two of your top draft picks. Those are like two of your guys you're going to be banking on in the future. So I think Will Campbell should get the rest of the year just to try and figure it out at left tackle. But the oversetting is something that I am going to be curious about.
Well, then also you spent a top 75 pick on a tackle who you just don't want to see the football field in Caden Wallace, which was at the time, I couldn't believe that pick. He was outside my top 150 and they picked him 68th. And I know they needed offensive linemen, but sometimes it's like, hey,
you don't got to force it.
You don't got to force it. All right, let's get to the last game of the slate here. Oh, roundabout way of saying I still like the Patriots. If T-Mac's not playing, the Panthers will not move the football. They will not.
I'll take the Patriots in this game, especially if McMillan's not playing, and also because Jalen Coker still not ready yet. Bryce Young might be throwing to Hunter Renfrow and Xavier Legette out there. Give me the Patriots.
All right, let's get to the Saints at Bills. Largest line of the year so far, 15.5. The Bills are favored by 48.5 points is the over-under. Yeah, I don't know what to say about this one. I mean, yeah, it's the Bills at Saints, or Saints at Bills.
Do we think the Bills actually cover? do we think they actually cover this? Because I almost went with the Bills minus 15.5 as my lock, but that's such a big number, and the Saints just like they're not good, but they are also they're also volatile. Like some games they might keep it close, and some games it's just they stand no chance. But I think this is one of those games they don't really stand a chance.
Yeah, I don't think they do either. But I do think the Bills, I don't want to say will take their foot off the gas pedal, but in games like this where they know they're going to kill, like they'll just run a bunch. They will just run. They will not have Josh Allen out there. They're not going to, try to pump up Josh Allen's stats in a game like this. They will just hammer home that trio of running backs probably 40 times and just call it a day, winning. So I kind of like the Saints to cover. I don't think they're a disaster of a football team. And I don't obviously think they're good, and they're fresh off one of the worst blowouts of the season at the hands of the Seattle Seahawks. But I would probably lead Saints. That's just a 15.5 is a crazy high.
It's an insane number.
Yeah.
Insane number. And I think I said it before. It sucks that the Saints are terrible because Demario Davis and Pete Werner are so good. They are so good. And they were really good against the Seahawks. It's just every time the Seahawks went to play action, it was an explosive play, which is why my lock is Josh Allen over 216.5 passing yards because they can just play action the Saints to death, which is what I think is going to happen. And this game's probably going to get out of hand.
I will note Joey Bosa has been massive for this Bills team. We haven't really touched on him, but he has the second highest pass rushing grade in the NFL per PFF. $12 million a year they got him for. That's a value signing so far. Now, obviously, we all know where they got him for $12 million a year. It's because his injury history is lengthy and you can't rely on him the last full season. But as it stands right now, even to get half season out of him, this guy's been worth it at this point. All right, let's recap our locks. Locks are sponsored all season long by Cash App. Making money move should be easy. That's why there's Cash App. It's fast, safe, and honestly just way more personalized than the other apps out there. We got a lot on the card here. JP's got Josh Allen over 216.5 passing yards. Aaron Rodgers under 202. Oh my gosh, I can't even talk. 202.5 passing yards. The Texans, Titans over 38.5, and the Panthers, Patriots under 43.5. I have Jackson Dart under 188.5 passing yards. Caleb Williams over 232 passing yards. Jordan Love over 228.5 passing yards. Bengals Broncos under 43.5. Chargers Giants under 44.5. Titans plus 7.5. Ravens minus 2.5. Jags plus 3. Harry's got Green Bay minus 6.5. Minnesota at Steelers over 40.5. The Jackson Dart under as well. And then Jahmyr Gibbs over 26.5 receiving yards. there you have it. We'll be back on Sunday night, breaking down all of the week 4 slate. And that was the Cash App. That was Lock, sponsored by Cash App. As you heard me say at the top of the show, new Cash App users can use our code to get free money. Use our code PUSHING. Send $5 to a friend within 14 days, and you'll get $10 right in your account. Thank you, Cash App. Thanks so much for tuning in, everybody. Until next time, keep pushing.